Mozart, the Sachertorte and Sisi all share one thing in common: their stories are deeply intertwined with the city of Vienna. It's an incredible place, rich in culture, history and fun, regularly ranked among the world's most livable cities, and attracting millions of tourists every year. Today I'll take you on a journey through Vienna, showing you the 15 best places to visit, while sharing the fascinating history about Austria's capital. Enjoy! We start at one of Vienna's most popular landmarks, Schönbrunn Palace. It's a bit outside of the city, but the U4 takes us there directly from Karlskirche in less than 20 minutes. The area is massive, including the world-famous palace and the gardens in a grand axial layout. That, just like any big castle in Europe, was influenced heavily by the popularity of Versailles. It was first purchased by Emperor Maximilian II in the 16th century as a hunting ground for the Habsburg dynasty. However, in the late 17th century, Emperor Leopold I commissioned architects to redesign the area entirely and model it after Versailles Palace in Paris, with its symmetrical design and formal gardens, and thus it turned into what we visit today. You can enter the castle, but even if you don't want to pay the €34 entry fee, you can have a great time in the gardens that are free to visit. The park surrounding the castle is a huge area that alone can take hours to explore. You even find the Vienna Zoo here in these gardens, as well as a labyrinth and many other attractions. Ancient statues are lined up right next to a pigeon house. A quiet park bench is only a 2-minute walk away from the noisiest point of the park. Right across the Grand Alley from the palace is the Neptune Fountain that is a perfect photo opportunity. At the very southern end of this park and up a small hill is the Gloriette Schönbrunn, which hosts a restaurant and gives you a great view of the palace and the gardens, with the backdrop of Vienna in the distance. It's quite a tedious little hike, especially in the summer at 30 degrees Celsius, but the views more than make up for that. Walking back down from this hill, we'll stop atop of the Neptune Fountain and find this little nook from where you can take great photos of the palace. Schönbrunn is one of 2 incredible palaces in Vienna. The other one is Belvedere, which we'll visit later. Returning from Schönbrunn, we end up at one of the most beautiful metro stations that I know, Karlsplatz. It's located in a small Park that hosts one of Vienna's most stunning buildings, the Charles Church or Karlskirche. The Karlskirche was commissioned in 1713 when the plague devastated Vienna a whopping 7 out of 10 years. And Emperor Charles VI decided that the buck stops here and that building a church would end the death. And I mean, there's no plague around right now, is it? Right at the entrance, we turn left and walk up a few flights of stairs to get to the viewing platform. As we make our way down, we pass the balcony where the organ stands. From here, the view into the church's interior is already breathtaking. The entry to the church costs €9.50, but it is absolutely worth it. The church was completed after over 20 years of construction in the year 1737 and has since been restored to keep its gorgeous appearance. The light marble, combined with all the Baroque gold and curved details, really make the whole space feel dramatic. It's over the top in the best possible way. Before you leave, don't forget to look up one last time. It's easy to miss how massive the whole thing really is from below. After a long day of walking in the sun, let's rest a bit in the small Burggarten or castle garden. This is a popular place to sit in the grass, rest and have a picnic. It was first designed over 200 years ago and was a private garden by the Habsburg family. There's a statue by the almost last emperor of Austria, Franz Josef I. He was the emperor for almost 70 years between 1848 and his death in 1916. His reign is generally seen as quite positive, with one of the exceptions being his skills on the battlefield. He famously lost almost every battle that he fought in. But to be fair, sometimes that was against superior armies of Prussia or France, and lost territories such as Lombardy or Venice. One of his worst defeats was in Solferino against the French and Sardinian armies, where many of his men died not during battle but afterwards because their wounds weren't treated. This caused the Swiss Henry Dunant to form a humanitarian organization that we still know today, the Red Cross, so at least something positive came out of this war. More famous than Franz Josef himself was his wife Elizabeth, or Sisi, who was admired by the masses and is until today a popular figure in Austrian history, and was portrayed by Romy Schneider in several highly successful movies. Franz Josef died in 1916, but not before declaring war in Serbia in 1914, after the heir of the throne, Franz Ferdinand, was assassinated in Sarajevo. This was the beginning of World War I, which after 4 years led to the end of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Before we leave the Burggarten, let's visit the statue of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who played an important role in the classical music world of Vienna in the 18th century, writing many operas such as The Magic Flute or The Marriage of Figaro. Leaving the Burggarten, we are now right by some of the most important museums in Vienna, home to some of the country's most important artifacts. The two most prominent ones are the Natural History Museum and the Art History Museum. In between them is the Maria Theresia monument, dedicated to Empress Maria Theresia. Was one of Austria's most popular rulers and one of the Habsburgers' most influential family members. We'll visit one of the museums here, the Art History Museum, Vienna. Immediately upon entering, we are greeted by the neoclassical staircase featuring a large statue of Theseus slaying a centaur by Antonio Canova. The ceiling, painted by Mihai Muncaci, is also significant. The museum was first commissioned by Emperor Franz Josef I in 1871 and completed in 1891. Its goal was to showcase the Habsburgers' enormous art collection to project strength and wealth. One of the most important artworks here is the Tower of Babel by Bruegel, a 16th century oil painting depicting the biblical tale of humanity's ambitious attempt to build a tower to reach heaven. There's also an important collection of Raphael, one of the most influential artists of the Italian Renaissance. One of the key pieces here is the Madonna del Prato. Oh, and there's this cute blue hippo. Just across the street we find some of Vienna's grandest buildings, more precisely the Hofburg with the Heldenplatz, or Hero Square in front. There are two prominent statues depicting successful generals, one depicting Prince Eugene who defeated the Ottoman Empire, and the other one Charles, who was the first to defeat Napoleon Bonaparte in battle, after he defeated almost all of Europe. A dark moment in the history of the square took place on March 15, 1938, when Adolf Hitler returned to his home country of Austria to declare it part of the German Reich. That in itself is not as shocking as the fact that 250,000 people attended the speech and cheered. A few steps away we find the Austrian Parliament that was constructed in Greek Revival style and opened in 1883. Across the street is one of Vienna's most well-maintained parks, the Volksgarten. The park was opened in 1823 and, unlike the Hofgarten, was made open to the public. It was even the very first public park in Vienna. One of its most iconic features is its rose garden with over 3,000 rose bushes, representing more than 200 different varieties. Behind the Hero Square is Josef Square, named after Emperor Joseph II, son of Maria Theresia, and quite the progressive, at least for the 18th century. He was a supporter of the arts and of education, following on his mother's legacy who implemented compulsory schooling. His sister was Maria Antonia, although you might know her as Marie Antoinette, the wife of Louis XVI. Was famously decapitated during the French Revolution. Vienna's most important and biggest church is St. Stephen's Cathedral in the heart of the Old Town. The first church at its location was already built in the 12th century, but the current version was built on the ruins of the previous ones in the 14th century, completed in 1578. The cathedral has two towers, the southern one was completed in 1433, and is 136 meters tall with 343 steps to get to the top. We will visit it in a second in order to get some of the best views of Vienna. The North Tower was built around 50 years later. However, the architects ran out of money, so construction had to be stopped, and the tower is now only about half as tall as its southern counterpart. The interior of the church is mostly free to visit without a ticket, so it perfectly fits any budget. If you want to climb the tower though, you will have to buy a ticket for €6.50. This gives you access to the tight staircase that leads you to one of Vienna's most beautiful viewing spots. The 343 steps to get to the top can be a bit nauseating though. However, the views from the top give you a 360-degree panorama of Austria's capital, of its old town and the tiled roof of St. Stephen's Cathedral up close. This cathedral is a must-see in Vienna. Let's escape the busy city for a moment and take the U2 to one of Vienna's most popular places in the summer, the Donauinsel, an artificial island in the Danube River. The island is over 20 kilometers long but no wider than 250 meters and was originally created to protect Vienna from an overflowing Danube River. Now, tons of water sports and picnic opportunities make this one of the favorite places for the Viennese in the summer. We take the metro back but only 2 stops, get off the Prater and visit Vienna's world-famous amusement park right in the city. The Prater is free to visit, but of course you have to pay for the rides. My main recommendation is to take the giant Ferris wheel. Especially at night, the views are incredible. When I visited, it was 33 degrees, which I guess reduced the attractiveness of an amusement park. However, on weekends and with bearable temperatures, it can get really crowded. Let's now explore some of the work of one of Austria's most famous artists. Friedrich Stowasser, although he is more known under a different name, Hundertwasser. He changed his name to Friedensreich Regentag Dunkelbunt Hundertwasser, which loosely translates to Peace Empire Rainy Day Dark Colorful Hundertwater. The Kunsthaus Wien, or Arthaus Vienna, is a museum that hosts some of his paintings, and was also designed by the artist himself, who wasn't only a painter but also an architect. Walking a bit from there we get to the Hundertwasser village, that hosts a cafe and several souvenir shops. Hundertwasser is mostly known for refusing to use straight lines in his work, which can be most prominently seen in the Hundertwasserhaus that was completed in 1985 and is one of the most important buildings in the city. Just a few stops on tram number 1 from the colorful Hundertwasserhaus, you find yourself in Vienna City Park or Stadtpark. It's home to beautiful walking paths, a small river and plenty of trees. But what really makes it special are the statues, from writers to world-famous composers like Johann Strauss. This park feels like a quiet tribute to Vienna's cultural soul. And of all the parks in the city, this one might just be the most relaxed one. We visited Schönbrunn before and I mentioned that there was another palace in Vienna. This one is called Belvedere and is right in the city center, just 15 minutes walking from Karlskirche. Just like Schönbrunn, it is situated in a beautiful garden with great photo opportunities, in front of this amazing building that was built between 1717 and 1723. However, the lower Belvedere, a smaller palace on the other side of the gardens, is even a few years older. The name Belvedere comes from Italian and means beautiful view. Even though the final E would be pronounced in Italian, it is not pronounced in the name of the palace because of the French influence in Austria. It was originally intended as a summer residence of Prince Eugene, but after his death was acquired by the Habsburger dynasty. Since 1955, it has hosted one of Austria's most important art museums and will visit it today. The ticket costs 21 euros if you buy it online, but you have to reserve a time slot. I booked my ticket the day before in high season and could still select the ideal time slot. Belvedere is a gorgeous building that is worth visiting even if you're not a huge fan of art museums. The Upper Palace's marble hall was the site of one of modern Austria's key moments, when the Allied forces and the new Austrian government signed the Austrian State Treaty, marking Austria's rebirth after World War II. The treaty also established Austria's status as a neutral country, shaping its future for decades to come. One of the funniest items in the galleries are the character heads by 18th century artist Messerschmitt, that portray men with bizarre facial expressions, as if laughing or about to sneeze. The most important and famous piece of art in Belvedere, and the motive of about 50% of souvenirs from Vienna, is the Kiss by Gustav Klimt, an oil painting from the early 20th century that is considered a masterpiece of the Vienna Secession style. After the museum, let's explore the gardens in the lower Belvedere and make our way back to the city center. A mystical but really cool attraction is the Imperial Crypt, which is a final resting place for many of the Habsburgers' most important members. Some of the coffins are actually quite modest, whereas others are almost filling up an entire room, such as the one of Maria Theresia. You can also find the coffin of Empress Sisi, who was assassinated in 1898 in Geneva, but not before challenging the patriarchal stereotypes of the Austrian Empire. We'll finish our tour through Vienna with an absolute highlight. Completed in 1869, the Opera House is one of Austria's most important buildings, the first major construction on Vienna's ring road. The Vienna State Opera is a musical heart of the city and considered one of the most important classical music venues in the world. You get an inside look into the architecture and history of the building by booking a guided tour. Those are offered in several languages and take around 1 hour. During performances, more than 1,700 people can attend and enjoy one of the around 350 performances each year. The very first performance was of Mozart's Don Giovanni on May 25, 1869, in front of the Emperor Franz Josef and his wife Elizabeth. During World War II, 80% of the building was ruined, but it was reconstructed in the same way because the design of the building was extremely popular with the public. An important event that takes place each year is the Vienna Opera Ball, that draws celebrities, heads of states and professional dancers. This concludes my video on Vienna. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe, and see you next time.